I would now have the honor of introducing Hope Damon. She is an honorary co-chair this year. Now, Hope is a dietitian, and she's a diabetes educator and a foodie, yay, who works with passion and compassion. Hope, the floor is yours. Don't forget to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Okay. Thank you so much. I quite don't know how to follow Patty. I am so honored to connect with you, Patty, and hear your stories and wisdom, and I wish we worked together. But I guess we remotely do because we're all doing this together. I'm really, truly honored to be a co-chair of Prouty. It is such an amazing event. I think as we all acknowledge that this is a very unusual year, and yet even with the pandemic, we all know that we really, really need research and patient care dollars just as much as the last 38 years. So I am honored to tell my little story. I've been donating to the Prouty for many, many years, and I always thought that I was doing that on behalf of the many family members and friends and patients of mine that I knew who had dealt with cancer. And then I found out I was doing it for me too. So this is my story. As Jean said, I'm a dietitian. I've been in private practice a long time in New London. And I kind of think I'm known for trying to make food fun and help people take good care of themselves. And when I was diagnosed, a lot of people said to me, "You're not eligible. You can't have cancer. You take such good care of yourself." And I was kind of like, well, apparently that's not the whole picture. So my story is November 2018. I had a routine clear mammogram, all set, good to go. And in March of 2018, I found a breast lump. Soon to be diagnosed as cancer. Lumpectomy at the end of April. Chemo started at the end of May, so just about a year ago now. Finished chemo in August, did radiation in the fall. I would drive north from Croydon, where I live, the half hour or so to Norris Cotton, and a patient of mine actually said, "Why don't you take a picture of the foliage every day and document the change of seasons as you finish your treatment?" Which is a really cool idea. I didn't do it every day. I did take some pretty neat photos though. And I would just kind of philosophize about life cycle and dying cancer cells and getting this over with. And on Halloween, actually, trick or treat, I was done, treatment completed. So that's the timeline. Norris Cotton Cancer Center was amazing. When I was first diagnosed, my sister-in-law, who we're very close to, who lives in DC and is sort of known as the family doctor, although she's not the doc, but she's the person that every family maybe has, who researches everything in medicine and sort of guides people. Martha said, "You have to come to Boston or New York or DC for treatment at one of the big medical centers." And I said, "No, I don't. I have what I need in my backyard. It's every bit as good, nationally certified, and they're missing at Norris Cotton." So I am grateful that I did indeed receive just wonderful, thorough, contemporary, and very compassionate care right here in New Hampshire. My cancer journey also included the opportunity to participate in 3 research studies. And as a dietitian and therefore somewhat of a scientist, it was really rewarding to do. I've never been a research subject before. And it made some of my experience going through cancer treatment feel more worthwhile because I felt like my cancer was going to help somebody else somewhere along the line. And I've actually just been reached out to for a follow-up study. So I guess there'll be 4. I really encourage anybody who has the slightest interest in participating in research to do so. And I will say all 3 of the research coordinators in the studies that I was in, they really made it easy. They really tried to fit it into the treatment days to be as little effort on my part as could be, and it was really, really worth it. I worked about 80%, 3/4 of my usual work schedule as a dietitian, which quite frankly kept me sane. It's nice to focus on other people and not on yourself, and life be as normal as it can be while you're going through that. Also, I think being a dietitian is perhaps good preparation for being a cancer patient. We kind of like to give directions and have people follow them. So I had to practice the follow directions part. It's more fun to give directions. But that said, you know, take those anti-nausea meds when they're prescribed, the way they're prescribed, and they work. I'm sure they don't work for everybody 100% of the time, but I heard so many stories about people who would tell their oncologist, well, I waited to see how it would be. I was like, I'm not waiting and see how it'll be. I don't want that. I literally was not sick once. And that is part of what, you know, from my experience, and I'm very respectful of very different experiences, but I kind of want to say to people, cancer is not always as bad as what you fear it would be and what you think it will be when you hear that diagnosis. It was doable. It wasn't as awful as it might have been. The best day in my cancer journey was Prouty. So I had been very determined to cycle at least some, even though I was in the midst of chemo, and in fact I had chemo the Wednesday before, or the Wednesday the week of Prouty. But about 2 weeks before Prouty, I tried to do a 15-mile bike ride with my husband that we've done numerous times, and it's not any big deal normally, and I didn't have the stamina to do it. There are all these little hills, and I was not making it. I was very discouraged, but I didn't give up the idea that I was going to ride. I just was kind of like, I don't know how. All ways to Prouty count. Lots of people said to me, you can walk. And that would have been fine for many people, but my definition of Prouty is I'm on a bike. So fortunately, midweek before Prouty, my husband realized that I needed to have an e-bike. And I am enormously grateful to George Chait, my good guy, who's now on the board of the Friends, for realizing that, and to the generous folks at Omer and Bob's who loaned it to me. The day before Prouty was my worst day of symptoms. I really felt awful the whole day. I think it was the only day that I canceled patients in my office, you know, other than days I'd planned ahead for. And we went to pick up the bike and I didn't even try it out. But Saturday morning, I woke up and I was good to go, people. So 35 miles on that e-bike, grinning all the way, suggesting to George, why wasn't he keeping up? It was just amazing. Cancer doesn't win. We do. We persist, we Prouty, and we get out there. So my final two thoughts. One, I don't ever miss an opportunity to say to everybody, please check your boobs or have someone you love do it for you. Self-exam is really important. That's not a diss of mammograms. I will be there for every scheduled mammogram, but check your boobs. And Prouty, and as Audrey and Jean have been saying, share your story of why you're raising money for cancer research. I think especially this year, for people to have something else to focus on besides COVID-19, and something that we clearly can have an enormous benefit and impact. I'll see you out there, literally or figuratively, this year, next year. Thank you.
Yay, Hope, thank you. That was wonderful.